is a boss, Kwanza?
Woo! Okay. What a boss is almost like what I think of when you think of the definition of success. It's so specific to each individual person, although there are certain things that are like a through line through it. So you talked about confidence, coin, and connection. A boss is most certainly above all else confident. And it doesn't mean that you're confident all the time, but it means you can figure out how to bring on that confidence, how to continuously learn and grow and become more and more confident. Because a lot of people think bosses are, oh yes, someone who has employees or someone who's running things. And the fact is, you can be a boss from anywhere. You can be a boss from any place. And I think the most important thing is to be a boss of yourself. Like, so many people want to go and do the whole thing like, no, don't be bossy, and don't boss me and all of this. It's like, who is the boss of you? Like, when people think about themselves, how are you the boss of you? Because if you start thinking of that first, then you want to start going into all of these other areas, whether it's entrepreneurship, whether it is being an entrepreneur because you're doing more entrepreneurial things inside of an established organization already. You'll be able to run things like a boss from whatever place where you are.
I love it. I love it. And, particularly with women of color, especially Black women entrepreneurs, to that point, many of us are solo entrepreneurs. Like, we're just,
Yep.
we're one person running a
Yep.
shop. And so it doesn't mean you're not a boss, right? We are
Right.
still boss.
If anything, you're the boss and the entire package and everything, because you have to run it all. You have to do it all. You can't rely on anybody else. If it doesn't work, it's because of you. It
That's right.
falls on you, which, in business and in life, that's often the case.
Often the case. And one of the things that I know I've been working on, and this kind of came up when we were doing our research with you, was around this idea of accountability.
Oh,
And
yeah.
back to like, right. And so it all falls on you. How well you do and how bad you do, right? How you
Yeah.
show up, how you don't show up, what you commit to, what you deliver on. And like,
Hmm.
accountability is so important. And I know oftentimes when we are leaders, when we are running things, sometimes we don't have people or
Right.
systems even to help hold us accountable. Someone
Hmm.
might be afraid to kind of point out where you're dropping the ball or where you didn't show up or deliver. Let's
Yes.
talk a bit about accountability and that energy and action that you said needs to be in people.
Woo! The energy, the action, the inspiration, but even more, most importantly, again, it's the accountability. And there are certain things. I have this blueprint, and it's these series of questions that I ask. And sometimes it's called the Better You Blueprint. Sometimes it's called the Billionaire Blueprint. But one of the questions that I ask amongst the series, what do you like to do? What are you good at? What do you want to do? It's the question, what are you willing to do? And I'm tying that in specifically to answer your question about accountability, because those two things come hand in hand. Accountability is really showing what you are willing to do. Because if you are accountable, you are willing to do what needs to get done. And that doesn't mean that it's easy. Especially, we're here and we're talking with Walker's Legacy. We're here and we're talking in the Ask a Boss series. So we're thinking about entrepreneurship. We're thinking about what the foundation does. We're thinking about what the company does with the digital media and things are there. And all of that is tied into entrepreneurship. It's tied into business, which means you must be accountable. So what are you willing to do? So if you can't really answer that for yourself, you need to go try a few things to figure out what you really are willing to do. And you need to surround yourself with people that can help you become accountable. And that doesn't mean, okay, if you're starting a business, that you suddenly have all these folks that are there to help you. Oftentimes, you won't have anybody there to help you. It's just you. You're like, I'm just trying to get it together. I'm trying to get it together. But that's when you can still do things to try to seek out other people. Like, people can have
Mhm.
mentors and you don't even know that they don't even know that they're your mentor. And it can be certain things. If you have to do like self accountability, you got your handy dandy, everybody has some sort of smartphone, which means put your timers in, put reminders in, do things so you can make yourself accountable, and leave yourself messages. I do this all the time. I talk to myself all the time in the mirror.
Uh-huh.
I walk by. Yeah, you got, yes. Yeah, you know what you need to do on my phone. I'm leaving messages and I'm setting alarms and I'm doing all things all of the times. Like, I have all these digital media things. a lot of people think it's like, oh, yes, you're here and you're boosting others, but I really do it for me. Like I've created an entire world, an entire universe that is really about how to be accountable.
Kwanzaa.
Ayris, you better go.
Right. I love it. I love it. I'm like, just, I'm moving there. Kwanzaa.
Well, because in the Quantiverse, everyone is supercharged. Everyone is able to be boosted and everyone is able to be better. And everyone knows it's not about just, okay, you're doing this one thing and you're done. It's about constant growth. And it's about constantly pushing and pushing and pushing and learning and growing, which means you only learn and you grow when you're accountable. When you're accountable for the mistakes that you've made, when you're accountable for the mishaps and the missteps, when you're accountable even for the good things as well as the bad things. Like that's a thing I look at. When things don't go well, I take 100% responsibility for everything. Absolutely everything. Because at the end of the day, it comes down to me. That's how I always treat everything. And I think if lots of folks did that, then what would end up happening, especially as people start to grow their business and do various things, you'd see even more and more connection, community, success in lots of various different ways. But yeah, accountability means willingness. You marry those two things and it's going to take you far.
No, absolutely. I mean, anything that you don't necessarily follow through on is because, to your point, you're just not willing to do it, right? It's also a reflection of what you value, and I don't mean it in a bad way. It's just like, if I have a list of things to do today, and I keep carrying over, I was going to go to the gym. I wasn't willing to do it. Dude, I really value my health in that, in that time at that moment.
And that's the thing, because life happens. And I always say this, life happens. You have to be prepared for when life happens. So when you think about, for example, the systems that are necessary, like if you can try to create systems, if you can try to create routines, if you can try to learn and make things a habit, then you don't have to have that cognitive load as much. So you're just like, this is what I do. This is who I am. This is what I do. This is how I've learned to become this way. And it's not easy to do, but it's simple, not easy. It's simple. The simplicity of it is you take action. And you take action each and every day. And you take action even when you don't feel like it. Because sometimes you are going to be the only one who's going to boost you. You're going to be the only one who's going to push you. So yeah, it's just like you've got to, I'm one who always thinks there's a reason behind everything. And some folks are like, no, it's just that way. Oh, no, it's just because. No, it's not a just because. I'm always about how do you examine truly what's underlying everything? How do you, again, hold yourself accountable? How do you understand the intention behind things? What is the reason behind those things? Because if you really think about that, then even think about the going to the gym in the morning. It's like, all right, yeah, it's hard to get up in the morning for some people. Me, I'm like, no, I'm up all the time. But I have so much stuff to do. I'm like, I'm just up.
Everybody knows. They're like, oh my God, Ayris is going to text me. I'm going to wake up to an email or a text from her at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning.
There it is.
The reason why I'm up so early every day is because, honestly, I'm just excited about life. Like, I can't even speak it. I wake up like, oh my God, what is the new opportunity? What is going to be the new adventure? I love it. And so, my kid was like, you woke me up. My mom, my family, like, girl, I got to text you at 5 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, you did, because I'm going. I'm ready. By 8 o'clock, I'm going.
I so relate. I always say it's like every day is a new day and it's a new opportunity. And it's that moment and that opportunity that's like, wow, this is exciting. You can literally make this day however you want it to be. Every day you get to reset. Every day you do it. So it's like, again, that's super exciting for me.
It is. And I think, particularly with being an entrepreneur, being a professional, I mean, you're in the grind and it can get very hard, right? Because every day is not a win. And for every win, there's those failures, there's those setbacks, and you start thinking like, what in the world am I doing?
I would say the ratio is even greater, that there are more failures, there are more setbacks than there are wins. There are so when you're looking at that ratio, it's not 1-to-1 at all.
at all, right? And so with that, because I'm sure, I want you to talk about your background to how you got here. I mean, it's amazing, and I think you can tell it and sell it better than I could. But I think when we see women like you who are at a certain level, who have certain access, who have certain education, sometimes there's an assumption of what the background and the story was before that, right? And that there takes a
Ooh,
certain
yeah.
level of perseverance, that accountability, that grit to kind of get to that next boss level. And that's really what this is all about. It's like bossing up, leveling up in
Yep.
spite of. So tell
Hmm.
us the Kwanza Jones story. How did you get
Ooh.
so supercharged? But where did it start?
Hey, how do I get supercharged? What is that story? It's interesting even how you mention things, because oftentimes people will make so many assumptions about things and they don't know the story. They don't know even half the story. They don't know what your struggles are. They don't know what you're going through day in and day out, and how you have to keep pushing each and every, not even day, every minute to try
Every
to
minute.
just literally make a conscious choice to do so. So when I think about the Kwanza Jones story, and it's a story I'll say I had not always told a lot. I've started sharing it a little bit more. It it's not the inception, but it was a stop along the way. And there was a moment I was walking home from school one day, and your parents always tell you don't talk to strangers. And there's a reason why they say that. And so I was walking home from school, not talking to a stranger, but did stop to try to help someone who said they needed directions. And they drove by in a car, slowed their car down, and said, "Oh, I'm trying to get to." So I didn't think anything of it. It's like, "Oh, I'm going to be helpful. Let me try to give you directions." I go closer. I know, Ayris, I already see your eyes are like,
Yeah,
"What?"
I'm like, this story is,
Yeah,
I'm leaning in. Okay.
exactly. Well, I go closer, and I actually had leaned in to try to hear more and to give information about these directions. And I got pulled into the car. And yep, pulled into the car. And then they start driving away. And I'm going through and I don't even go into I actually, I've never gone into all the details of it in terms of even as I was being pulled into the car
Yeah.
and how I saw the guy who was driving the car with his pants down and open and exposed, all of these things. So I'm just like, all right, I know it, I know what's about to happen here. And so the story of Kwanzaa was fighting and fighting and fighting and doing whatever it was I could to get out of that car, because I knew if I didn't, I wouldn't even be here today for us to talk about some of
That's
these
right.
things. I
Mm.
wouldn't be. And that's that story where when I think the drive that I have to not stop, to always keep pushing and to keep fighting, not just for myself, but also for others too. And that's where, when I think about even the family office and Kwanza Jones and Jose Feliciano initiative, where we have education, entrepreneurship, empowerment, and equity, it's like that equity portion of that, that's that fight. That's that
Mm.
fight that started from when I was walking home from junior high school, like, and getting dragged in, and like, I just need to go, I need to get out, because if I don't do something, no one is going to save me. It's
Mm.
only me right now. So that again, that's part of the story, and it's such a critical part of the story, because I think what happens at times is so many people reach a point where they feel like it's too much and they
Mhm.
just want to give up. And I
Mhm.
think when those, and it's in anything, it could be in school, it could be at work, it could be in a new business, it could be in a project, could be in a relationship, could be in any of those sorts of things. I think the key thing is you have to constantly think, what is it that I'm fighting for?
Mhm.
Why am I fighting? Why is this important to me to keep fighting? Because I know exactly what motivated me and why it was critical that I kept fighting to get out of that situation and to keep moving forward. And so again, when you talk about that story, that's part of it. And so since then, some of the things I had done, I was on the board of education in Washington, D.C. when I was a student, as a student member on the board of education, again, trying to be someone who could be an advocate for others in various different ways. And I did a lot of different things. From not only meeting and going and doing summits with heads of states from, although Russia is crazy right now, at the time it was not so much, but it was like with Gorbachev and with Reagan and going over and meeting different folks in different places. And then I ended up going to Princeton and I performed at the Apollo and I won at the Apollo. And, I just married all my different interests because I'm like, look, it's just a whole lot of things. So once I got out of law school, I'm like, what do you do? Well, I don't know, you go out of law school and then you go climb Mount Kilimanjaro because you're just like, here's what I need to do. I need to go understand, like, what are more of these mountains that are out there that need to be climbed, and not just the literal mountain, but more even figuratively, because it still is about what's that fight, what is it, how you keep constantly examining and examining and examining and asking yourself, all right, what am I doing? Why am I here? What am I fighting for? What is this for? So those are a few of the little drops in the buckets along the way. And I'll just say, then fast forward to even now, where I have a couple companies, and one of them is a production company, and it's a motivational media company where we do music. We do, you understand, with digital media and all of those things. We do community, we do media, we do music, we do videos, we do content, a number of those things too. And that really ties into the investment and philanthropic company because, again, the 4 pillars that I mentioned, the education, entrepreneurship, equity, and the one that I think is the most important one is empowerment. The empowerment side is where Supercharged by Kwanza Jones comes in, because what happens is you can have all of these things. You can have a business and you can get access to capital and it's great. And you can do nothing. And guess what happens when you do nothing? Right. Nothing happens when you do nothing. You can have opportunities that are given to you or handed to you and you do nothing. And then what happens when you do nothing? Nothing happens. So oftentimes people will stop themselves, which is why I say that empowerment side is the critical one, because it's about how do you take action. And that's the marrying of the 2 different companies. And so what happens is, if I'll go and do an investment in a company, whether it's a for-profit or a nonprofit, and I always talk about investments even for nonprofits, because it's not charity a handout. It's
exactly. Absolutely.
But I also know money is not enough. And money in many ways can be the easy part. And again, I say it's easy, but not minimizing at all the fact that it is not always easy to acquire capital and things there. But it's the networks, it's the connections, it's access, it's opportunities. Those things are equally as important as the money, as the cash, as the capital. Because if you have one and not the other, it's just not going to work in the long term. So that's where it's marrying the companies and making sure this digital community and the media and the motivation still is so that people can be inspired to continue. Because when you're getting this investment, I need to know that you're going to keep going. You're not going to be like, I got a little hard, I'm done. Yeah, that doesn't work.
It doesn't work. It's back to that, like, accountability and how you show up. Yep. Okay, so there was so much there. I have a few things I want to ask about to build off of that. So the first is, I mean, you've been, so like myself, I call it like a tri-sector professional. I've been in the corporate, I've been in not-for-profit, I've been in government. I'm also, I own my own business as well. Like, so it's like I'll cover all these different verticals. But one of the things that I know a lot of us have struggled with, or sometimes we feel, we're trying to navigate through, we call it like imposter syndrome. And so here you are, you've been in these different industries. You're now out here leading around empowerment. You were, doing the State Board of Education. It's like, do you ever feel when you go into these new spaces, and maybe you don't, and maybe you have, like, oh, am I really supposed to be here? Mm-hmm. And if you have felt like that, or even before you go into those new spaces, how do you show up like so supercharged and ready to conquer? What are some tips and some tactics that our ladies can be like, let me get out of my own way. I can be in my own way and in my own head. Yep. Oh my God, so much that it becomes crippling, right? And we don't move forward.
Yep.
Because we're scared we're going to fail before we even fail. It's like, why even manifest that?
Exactly. You tell yourself no before other people tell you no.
That's right.
It's
That's
like,
right.
okay, wait, why don't you, and I call it a boost friend, like, why don't you be your own boost friend and boost yourself up? Because you would be boosting your best friends up, or your girlfriends, or your guy friends, or whomever it may be. Why don't you do that for yourself? So when you talk about imposter syndrome, and I think everyone, I don't know if everyone suffers from imposter syndrome or not, but do I have imposter syndrome? Have I had it? I would say no, because I choose not to.
All right.
And that's a critical thing. It doesn't mean that I have not been in spaces and places where I have not felt like, ooh, okay, uh-oh, should I be here? I don't know. But
Yep.
I always choose to say, I am in these spaces because I belong, and I know what I've done, and I know how hard I work. And I know that even if it is my first instance being in this space, being in this place, being in this role, that every single person has had an instance where it was their first time being in a space, being in a place, being in that role. So if you always take it back to, hey, everyone starts at some point. No one comes out of the womb all knowing.
That's
It just
right.
doesn't happen. No one comes out of the womb like, yes, I'm now an entrepreneur. Oh, yes, I am now a doctor, a lawyer, a business owner. Oh, yes, I'm a politician. Oh, yes. No, which means people had to learn all of those things. In order for
Hmm.
them to learn, it means they had to be open. In order for them to be open to learn, it means it's mindset. So if you are aware of your mindset and the fact that you can choose, you have a choice every single day. You have a choice every single hour. You have a choice every single minute. So in those instances, especially when you're like, okay, it's imposter syndrome. Do I really belong here? My theory is you don't have the luxury.
Hello.
You don't have the luxury to say you have imposter syndrome, because at the end of the day, it's a luxury to engage in those thoughts. It's a luxury to give yourself time to engage in that, as
Mm.
opposed to saying, you know what, the minute this creeps in, here's what I'm going to say instead. Here's what I'm going to do instead. How do I condition myself? Because it's repetition, 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 training, training, training. What are the things that you're going to do so that when this starts to creep up, you're like, nope, when this one creeps up, I got 5 things that'll combat that. And I make it a habit. And I'm not going to indulge myself in those negative feelings. I'm not going to indulge myself into feeling I'm not worthy. I'm not going to indulge myself into feeling like I don't belong. That's a luxury I'm not going to indulge myself in. So I think about it again a little bit differently than I think some folks do, because again, if everyone has doubts, even when people say they don't have doubts, everyone has doubts, which means that at core is what imposter syndrome is. How do you get better? How do you feel more confident? You learn more, you know more, you talk to more people, you feel the discomfort and grow from that place. You
I
don't
love
need to
that.
do
You
anything
feel
harder.
the discomfort and grow from that. I'm always
Absolutely.
pushing that too, particularly when we
Yeah.
talk about expanding our connections. And so I
Hmm.
tell, our ladies and anyone I'm around, it's like insert yourself into environments and networks that are not comfortable to you. It's one thing
Absolutely.
to join an organization or to be on a board or to show up at an event where you know everybody and you can feel like, yeah, but it's another thing to be at a table where you don't know anyone. And
Correct.
as someone who's looking to grow clients or you're looking to raise capital and you want to work on that confidence, that's the best way right there. It's like, how can I make myself feel great, in an
Right.
environment where I don't know anyone or I know nothing, and
Hmm.
still be able to show up and deliver and make those connections.
Exactly.
And so as go through your entrepreneurial journey and your professional journey, and now you're out here, creating the Kwanzaa verse, how, let's talk a bit about identifying and creating and cultivating new networks and connections, because
Mm.
I can only imagine what your network and the connections are that you have. But to your point, you didn't always have them, right? You weren't born with it, and the tables you're at today are not the tables you were at 10 years ago, 15 years ago, even
Right.
5 years ago, right?
Yep.
So what recommendations and tips do you have for ladies?
Oh my goodness. Keep showing up. And I
Mm,
think that's the thing. Keep showing up even when you feel like you are not being included. Keep
Yeah.
showing up, even when you feel like people are turning you away and telling you no. Keep showing up and keep showing up for you. Because if you're showing up for others, you're not going to be able to sustain that. You got to say, it's for me, I'm going to keep showing up. So, how do you do that in terms of some of these various networks? People have so many connections that they don't even realize that they have if they're intentional about thinking about it. It's like it's as simple as asking anyone in your circle, anyone who you meet, hey, do you know, and whoever the person is or whatever the thing is, do you know someone who knows how to do X, Y, or Z? And it may be a no, but it could be a yes.
That's
Do you
right.
know someone who has done X in this particular way? Again, could be a no, but it may be a yes. So, do you know somebody who could be helpful in this way? Because I'm really curious about that. You are going to get a lot of no's. And as long as you're like, okay, no, no, whatever, you need to become immune to the no's because what
Hmm.
happens is so many people hear the no and they fear the no.
That's
And
right.
when you're hearing it and you're fearing it, then that stops. And you start believing that, okay, I am now limited to only this. These are only the circles that I have, the connections that I have, the rooms that I'm in, and there's nothing even more than that. So I think the biggest thing is ask, ask, ask. Do not be afraid to ask. I have been in rooms and in places and in spaces where you wouldn't believe some of the things some people ask me. And I'm like, oh, really? That's how it is. And so
What's the
when you're
craziest ask you've had? No, I'm sorry.
I mean, well,
Okay. No, all right. No, no, we won't talk about
I'm like, there have been well, there have been some crazy asks. There have been some crazy asks that have been business asks, and then there have been some crazy asks that have been more like different proposition asks. I'm like, really? Oh, you
You
need to
know,
go
and I
somewhere
feel
else.
sad. No, but look, you know
I'm
what?
like, I
People
know.
forget about that as well. I mean, yeah, we get. Whew. I'm sure the ladies are gonna be like, "Whew, I've been there." There have been moments,
Yep,
along this kind of professional journey where you go, "Really? Did you just ask
exactly.
me that? Is that
Yes,
part of the
and they're
conversation?"
asking with the expectation that it's like, oh, well, if I'm asking you this, it's because I'm going to be able to help you get up and get over and do this. And it's like, no, 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 it's not that type of party. I don't need that. Because
Right.
here's the thing, like, and for some people are like, okay, it's a tool. Here it is. I'm going to use it. Go. If that's you, fine, go with it. I know for me, I'm just like, you know what? Here are the things that are important
That's
to
not
me.
how we define being a boss here, Kwanzaa.
Exactly.
Not a
Exactly.
boss lady. That's not a boss move. Okay. That's all we're gonna say.
Yeah. So again, I think it's asking, 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 putting yourself in different situations and not being afraid to, whether it's LinkedIn and you're reaching out to people. Like even in this instance, when we were connecting, you and your team, you all were persistent. Like people don't understand that sometimes a no is not a no. A no is, I actually haven't gotten your message yet.
That's
I
right.
actually have a whole lot of things in my inbox. I actually have a lot of calls that are coming through. I actually have a lot of text messages. But as soon as I'm able to see it, and you never know when I'm going to see it, absolutely it would be a yes. So it's
Mhm.
just a matter of time. It's just a
That's
matter
right.
of time. So that's the biggest thing I would say. Stay persistent and keep trying and keep asking and don't stop, because the ask that you think you have is not as outrageous as you may think it is. There's some others where people are like, oh, yes. And there are others, because I get a lot of asks from people where they feel entitled. And I'm like, all right,
Mm-hmm.
that doesn't work for me. So again, I think it's one of those things where you have to understand, and you said it best, where it's okay to be uncomfortable and be at those tables where you don't know anyone. You
Yeah.
have to, you're gonna have to. And what I would say is, and already know and have an idea of what you would say when you're at those tables.
That's right.
You don't have to have it rehearsed,
Yep.
but you have to know, if you're sitting at these tables and in these rooms and in these places, you have to speak up. So I did a talk once at the summit, the Supercharged Summit, and the title I named it was Step Up or Shut Up.
Hey.
Power starts with you. Because what happens is, again, The shut up portion is people silence themselves so often and don't even realize that that's what they're doing. So when you're talking about what are some tips in terms of how you get into these places and be connected, don't silence yourself. And if you have to practice not silencing yourself, if you have to practice, like, no, it's not a script, but here are three things I know I can always say.
Yeah.
I can say this about what I'm doing. I can say it about my business. I can say it about a project. I can say it about an endeavor, or I can ask it about what someone else is doing so that I can engage and I can make sure. The key thing is connection. How do I have an authentic and genuine connection, even if I'm hopeful that at some point something else may develop from that? But how am I genuinely interested in who these other people are that are at the table who I may never have ever seen ever before? So those hopefully are a few tips that can be helpful.
No, I really value the part about asking, because I think it goes back to also, you know, asking for help or asking for someone to support what you're doing is not a sign of weakness.
Right.
Right. And it's really a sign of strength. Like, you are ready to show up. You are ready to help take what you're investing in and what you love and what you care about to a different level. And so while someone may say, I can't do that, or no, it's also an opportunity for you to be like, okay, well, game one, let me figure out then who else I should go to. You got to
And
keep
it's
it
also,
right?
I'm going to cut you off really quickly here and say, and it's an opportunity. If someone says, no, I can't do this, it's an opportunity for you to say, hey, well, do you know someone else who could? Because if you always follow it up with that, they may not be able to do something for you, but now you've taken the pressure off of them. And it's like, oh, you don't want anything from me? Oh, yeah. You know what? I think I know somebody who's this, and that. Let me introduce you to there. So always having that follow up too.
I love that. I'm gonna put my little 3 points down that I'm going to just spit out all the time everywhere I go. My 3 questions.
Yeah, make one of those 3 points. That, and do you know somebody?
Do you know somebody? Right. Okay, well, not, do you know somebody? Because I still need to raise this capital. I still need this new client.
Yeah, exactly.
I need it. I need it. All right. So I know we are about to come up on the end of our time, but
Can you believe it? This was like too quick, too short. You know what I will say, even right as we're coming up to the end of this, and specifically in speaking to your specific community and your audience, which we know are women, and they are women of color, they are Black women, they are multicultural women. And when we're looking at literally when it feels like the weight of the world is on our shoulders all the time, where it feels like I cannot get a break for trying, laughter makes a difference. So even when we were able to just take a minute, like literally finding those moments of happiness, and I won't even say happiness because I say happiness is fleeting, but joy, where you can say, despite all of this, I am joyful. And I'm able to be joyful because I am grateful. And I'm able to be grateful because I know what the alternatives could be. I know how things have been, even for the women who have come before us. It's like I've got my Queen Moves Only shirt on, even for those women that came before us that were showing us how to make queen moves, that were teaching us, or those women or women figures who were doing those things. Like, I'm joyful and I'm grateful because I know that, again, I am the hope and I am the dream of so many people. And that gives me joy. So.
Unequivocally. And the reason I made that face when you said laughter, I was like, because first of all, Dawn and I were just talking about that. She was like, having fun and laughing is so important to you. And I've been working with my coach, and, it's like, what are your values? And one of my core values is laughter. Like, I have to laugh in every element of my life. Like, I need to be laughing in my personal, time. I need to be laughing while I'm working. It's critical because I've gone through for a long time, so serious.
Yeah. And sometimes you have to laugh at the absurdity of it all, because some things are just like, really? Okay.
You absolutely do.
And then you just pick yourself up and keep going.
You absolutely do. And to that point, right, some of our, ancestors and those who came before us, they didn't have that luxury. They didn't have that
Yep.
privilege to laugh.
Yep.
They didn't have that moment to take a break. And even if we choose not to take a break sometimes, that's on us because we have
Right.
accumulated certain types of habits or
Right.
traits, or we have perceptions that we got to go so hard. And it's like,
Mhm.
no, but we actually have the opportunity and we have the capacity and the luxury to
Yep.
pause. And so a
Right.
lot of what we've been infusing and trying to incorporate into our programming and into our messaging is literally that. Ladies, we need to
Mm.
cultivate our whole selves,
Yep.
not just focusing so much on building out the business, but let's be in the business of building up and building out ourselves. Because
Right.
at the end of the day, all we got is this one body, right? All
Mhm.
we got is this one kind of opportunity to breathe. And so if
Yeah.
we don't take that moment to pause,
Yep.
like we're almost being disrespectful because there's been so much work.
Also, I'd add, if you don't take the moment to pause, you don't take the moment to grow. Because what ultimately happens is many times it's in that quiet space, or that, and by quiet, it doesn't mean like, oh, you're not laughing, you're not doing
Yep.
things, but it's like literally taking a step back and just spending time to think, spending time to reflect, spending time to get away, spending time to go look at the moon, or look at the stars, or look at the clouds, or whatever it may be. Go read a book, go read a passage or a phrase, spending that time to say, okay, it's okay for me to turn it off for just a minute.
Mhm.
Those are those moments where you're able to grow even more. So those are those moments. I say I am supercharged, but that's where you can recharge. And the
That's
fact
right.
is, you think about your phone, when the battery, it goes from green, 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 and then you're seeing red, and then it's done. If you are not taking the moment to plug it in
Yep.
and charge, then it's not going to be able to work and function for you. You need
Yep.
that energy. You need that fuel. And so that fuel you get from resting, which is why it's okay to take a break. It's okay to say, all right, I'm going to do this now. And I'm doing even now. I've been telling some of my team, you all have to take a break. And people are like, no, I don't want to do it. I'm not doing it. I'm not taking it. I'm like, look, you have to do it. But yeah, it is. And I don't even think it's just a culture of like women or black women. I think it's just, especially even, I think it's part of our culture. It's part of our
It
society
is.
in general. And we have to learn that it's okay to have those moments. Like, I don't believe in work-life balance. Doesn't exist for me. I
So that
believe
was
in,
going to be my very last question. And I said the
oh,
same thing. I'm like, there's no such thing as balance because wherever you put your
no.
energy, I mean, it's
Yep.
always going to be out, right? So I always
Yep.
look for like the harmony. And
Yes.
one of the things when I look at, your social and your website and videos of you, it feels like it all ties and comes together.
Yeah.
Like your personal brand, your charge, your focus around service, but
Yeah.
even the lifestyle. So it seems
Hmm.
very harmonious, right? And it's like how to
Yeah.
create a harmonious lifestyle that is
Yeah.
reflective of what you're looking to achieve and
You
accomplish.
know, part of that is because when you talk about the harmony, and we're talking about this from a balance, and like, oh, there isn't any, I call it, it's not about my work life, it's about my life's work. So
Hey,
if I think of, like, for everyone, any endeavor that you're doing, whether it is a job, whether it's a business, excuse me, whether it's an entrepreneurship, an initiative you're working on, whether it's a nonprofit, any of those things, what at core, again, this means you got to take that time to have space to think and look at the trees and do whatever it is. What's your life's work? Like, what is the thing that, no matter what, all of the experiences that you're having, there's a thread that connects through it, which is why you can have all these different experiences, because it's all part of your life's work. And that is why it's not about balance. It's about that, again, it's about that harmony. It's about that integration. You're integrating everything that is all of you into everything that you do. So when you come to the end of your life in whatever form, some people are like, we're coming back. Some people will say, no, that's one and done. That's it. So when you get to the end of your life and you're able to say, here's how all of this connected. Here's how this was a whole. This was my life's work. This is what I've done. This is like the legacy that I have left, and the life I have been living and building, that shows and showcases all of these things. Again, it's part of that whole, it's part of the integration, it's part of that life's work.
I love it. I mean, I think that's the mic drop. That's the end right there. Back to the legacy. And I think at the end of the day, I hope that we are all trying to be conscious around the legacy that we want to leave behind, right? I mean, our story is not just this story that's here today, but what will they say about you when we're no longer here in this kind of physical body? And I think that is so critical. And if we think like that, I think it changes a little bit how we show up, how we act, how we treat, how we spend our time, and how we invest, going forward. So,
and it also means you don't feel that you have to do it all right now.
That's
because
right.
we're looking at this over a lifetime, and perhaps it's a longer life for some, it may be shorter lives for others. But again, it changes the perspective. I say that I dream in decades because when I'm dreaming about things, it's not about, oh, what's happening tomorrow. It's about beyond what comes next, what's beyond. So even here, and so thank you so much for having me as part of your Ask a Boss series, and even more importantly, as part of your Walker's legacy, not only the company, but also the foundation, that legacy portion. This is something even I remember growing up, my parents would always talk about the legacy and always talk about, for example, Madam C.J. Walker and all of the things that she did and what she represented. So there are times where people may not even be consciously thinking about their legacy, but make no mistake, a legacy is being made by all the actions you do daily. A legacy is being left. So what is it that it's going to say when you take the entirety of it? So
I love it. I love it. So Kwanza, if people want to be part of the Kwanzaverse and get charged, how do they find you? Where do they go?
Oh, well, initially, if you know my name, you can find me. Go to KwanzaJones.com.
Google me.
That is it. And it's Kwanza with one A at the end, not two. One thing I will also say is part of what we do, and I want to make sure I'm opening it up to you and your community and all of the folks that you all have. I have a community, and as part of the Kwanza Jones community, it's the Boost Friends community, because I'm all about how do we boost each other to be better. The access, the networks, the connections, those sorts of things. So it's almost like a next level network. But I say people have best friends, but you have a boost friend. Everybody needs boost friends, people that are going to boost you. And I know I have been boosted by so many people. I know I've been able to give others a boost. And honestly, that's what life is about. So you can find my Boost Friends community as well as me. Go to KwanzaJones.com. You'll see all of the different links in there. It'll say community. It'll say resources. It'll say a lot of different things. That's the easiest way. And of course, all the social places. That's easy. At least for those who are on social, the Twitter, the LinkedIn, the Facebooks, the YouTubes. What's the new ones? The TikToks, the Snapchats.
Oh my God, I can't keep up with everything.
I know. It's like all of them. Wherever they are, I'm there.
Wherever they are, I am. Kwanzaverse.
That's exactly. And it is always supercharged.
I know it is. I know it is. So thank you so very much for joining us on Ask a Boss. I couldn't think of a better boss woman to spend this time with today.